to the morning programs on Equa Television International, the Dailies, where we look at, stories trending on our Nigerian newspaper. I'm Sarah Elisha Dasham, and Rachel Tansi is doing this with me. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Sarah.
How was your night? Hope you rested well.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's quickly go through the papers, and I will be starting with the Vanguard newspaper. We have a column here coming from Efe Babalola, and he said police corruption wastes resources, undermines security, and makes mockery of justice. You can look up that column on page 20 and more about what Efe Babalola has to say about that. And on the Kaduna train attack, Mamu aided local and international groups. This is coming from the DSS. They're still digging deep and deep to know more about that. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and bring you current with everything that the DSS are going to do. Even though he has been kept in custody, the court has given them the go-ahead to keep him for 60 more days. And you know what that means. Yeah. Even though people are aware of the idea that if he is charged and he's guilty, he's supposed to be charged to court in the next 48 hours. So we saw yesterday there was a change, and it said the DSS can keep him for 60 more days because over time, the paper, lots of revelation have been coming up. The DSS brought out some fact that he was discovered with some foreign currencies of different denomination, some reports that are actually put him in a very, a spot where they actually think he's working together with the bandits and the terrorists. So we'll just be following the story closely, and whatever the outcome of that investigation and interrogation is, we'll bring it to the public. And on insecurity, northern governors and monarchs call for state police. You can look up that story on page 6. Troops rescue 10 hostages and kill bandits in Kaduna community. Nigeria's oil exploration begins decline as rig count falls. You can read up that too on page 19. And we have on the alleged organ harvesting, Ekweremadu asks court to dismiss upon suit. Nigeria broke still feels like we're in recession. This is coming from the PDP presidential candidate Atiku. The big story on the Vanguard says no going back on opposition to same-faith ticket, coming from the Forum of the Northern Christians. And the writer following the story says as Dogara Babachir Lawan, Khan chairman from the 19 northern states meet. Their fifth columnist, this is coming from the APC source. I don't believe in playing politics with religion. Okowa slams Tinubu and Obi. Why Atiku pick Okowa as running mate over Wike and others? This is coming from Ayu, the chairman of the PDP. Now, so much so much talk have gone on concerning this Muslim ticket, same faith ticket, and people have kicked against it, can't spoke about it. In fact, vividly when the governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, was giving the DG for the APC, the Northern, Forum came out, Northern Christian Forum came out and said, why are Christians are not good to be running mate, but they are good for DG. I know lots of agitations came up, because if you look at where Nigeria is presently, Nigeria is made up of different religious groups. Yes. And it's ideal that every religion, especially both the Christian and the other faith, should be rightly represented. True. Because you can see the way things are. It's a little thing. I'm sure you realize that we're having religious crisis in various parts of the, of the country. We've had that in various parts, especially when you come to look at the northern part of the country. So looking at this back and forth, yesterday we saw it on the papers where Governor Akiri Dudu also said that he's not happy with the same faith, looking at same faith ticket that is going on. But then he was, telling Christians to come out and actually vote for Tinubu of the APC party. And if you look at the three main parties presently right now, Atiku picked a Christian, Okowa from Delta. We saw Peter Obi picking the other faith, and we also saw Tinubu picking same faith with him. Even though I remember there was a time when Hope Ozodima said that Tinubu is actually a Muslim from the lower up, I'm trying to remember the vivid word he used, but it was more like Tinubu is not a strong Muslim. Why he has to pick someone from a stronger side, from the northern part. So you could see that so much is going on concerning this same faith issue. But we'll just keep our fingers crossed and just know at the end of the day, what will be the outcome of all this?
And in the end, it's just propaganda, because is there anything like a low Muslim? Or I'm a Christian, Like, um, my strength is at the background, but what do people know is my faith. And yes, we cannot overemphasize, and I keep saying that I feel we shouldn't even worry ourselves about this Muslim ticket, except if we are considering Tinubu as Christians. So I feel that let them do what they want to do. It's left for you to make up your mind, like, who is your candidate? Who do you want to go? Like, where is the arrow pointing you to? If APC is not giving us what we want, we go to where we will get what we want. It's about time we forget this whole party thing and start looking at individuals, for the fact that they didn't consider the whole religious thing is enough to tell you that probably these people don't have you in mind. Like, these are all red flags that we cannot neglect, but like put it and okay, you know what, this country is not just one religion. We are two or even three, because they are traditional worshippers. So yes, everybody has to be represented. And we can say bye-bye to the party that doesn't want to represent both sides of this religion. I feel it's that simple. It's about time we even stop talking about it and just focus the way forward. What's next? Who are we voting? Who is our candidate? And let's just go to the next level concerning this.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed concerning, just like you said, we don't have just two political parties. There are many, and people can actually,
yes,
expand and see whichever party that is suitable. Well, still on the Vanguard newspaper, we have NNPC seals gas pipeline deal with Morocco's hydrocarbon office. This is coming from the ECOWAS. You can read up that on page 7. Energy transition, Nigeria to benefit from the $12 billion US fund. You can read up that on page 6. Also, we saw Kenyamo the trade exposes the APC plot to assassinate Obi. Detail can be found on page 7, and this is coming from the Labour Party. We have two picture stories here, one coming Buhari in Imo yesterday, and we heard the Senate Bank boss at the IMC. So you can read up any of the stories and, check up that on the Vanguard newspaper.
On this day newspaper, Buhari hails CBN, NDIC, NICOM, others on financial system stability. Says government tackling insecurity, inflation, mass immigration of talent unsettles banking industry. Gumel, banking innovation must not be at expenses of rural communities. Retail investors can unlock $198 billion growth opportunities in Nigeria. More of that story on page 5. NNPCL set to sign 7,000-kilometer gas pipeline contract with Morocco, West African countries. More of that story on page 8. Senate rejects 6 trillion naira tax import duty waivers in 2023 proposed budget. Insist proposed 12,043 trillion naira deficit unacceptable. And the big story, Atiku proposes $10 billion economic stimulus fund for MSMEs, unfolds blueprint. And the story on the riders, vows to privatize refineries than utilize $1.55 billion to revitalize them. Says he will propose legislation to remove electricity from exclusive list. Meet Makinde, Southwest Party leaders today. Promises to help PDP win Lagos. And there's a picture story, Buhari in the heartland of Indigo. And that's all on this day news.
All right, let's take a look at the first news. And the first story on the first news is saying those who should be marketing my administration not doing so. coming from Buhari. And we have Niger Delta enemy sponsoring smear campaign against Diko, says the Ijaw progressives. You can read up that story on the first newspaper. And on 2023 presidency, 4 PDP governors secretly working for Tinubu. 2 southeast, 1 southwest, and 1 south-south governor involved. PDP governors fraternizing with the APC presidential flag bearer seeking re-election soft landing after leaving office. This is coming from a source still from the APC. And we have on 2023 election, INEC deletes 1.1 million newly registered voters. And some of the reasons why INEC did that, it says some people registered twice. And you know that once you register twice, you will be disqualified totally from actually getting involved in the election. So this is for people in case you go and then you discover your name is not among the list. It's either possibly you do not follow the right processes or you actually register twice. So rather than registering twice, go on the portal of INEC and check and verify if your name is there, and then you can actually make your step to the office to get your PVC if you've registered.
But now the thing is not deleting them. This 1.1 million people. Okay, so they made a mistake of registering twice. Does that mean they don't get to vote in the upcoming election? And then if they don't, if that's the penalty, which is a very harsh one, do they get the chance to go back and register again? Because I want to believe elections in Nigeria doesn't end next year. More and more elections are coming.
Richard, I think the registration, that will be after the election. And this is really a very hard one. And just like you said, very harsh one, because I think even though the INEC might actually say they have actually made it very clear to people, but not everybody gets to hear that. We keep talking about we don't go to the right areas. There's no voter education that is being done to people over there. Somebody can maybe after misplacing or losing his or her PVC will go register again, not knowing that you could actually just print out the document from your portal, you put your name or your date of birth. Immediately you put it, every detail about you, just print it and give them in the office, and then they go further to reprint the PVC rather than, doing that twice. So I think more needs to be done for people. But sometimes the mistake even come from the INEC workers. I'm a victim, and that's what I'm saying. I remember after misplacing my purse was stolen and my PVC was inside. And then when I went to their office to complain, they checked their register and they said my name is not there. I should go register again. But after I had registered again, I had my temporary card, and when I went back to give them so I could get the PVC back, they told me I can't be giving. That's when it was discovered that already you're a registered voter and you are registering again. So I didn't get to, partake in the election in 2019. You could see it was really a painful one for me. So I had to do the necessary step. And right now they have closed their portal for the continuous voter registration. So these are part of the things. Yeah, I have to, so these are for those who are involved, even though I think more enlightenment needs to be done for people not to fall in that category. Still on the first news, we have Tinubu not ill, works 20 hours daily. This is coming from the campaign council. Lambas Peter Obi calls him incurable liar. And still on 2023, I will lead Nigeria out of darkness. This is coming from Atiku. Claims PDP will win Lagos in 2023. And on NASU strike, resign now, NASDEL education minister. As students block the Lagos-Ibadan expressway to protest the lingering strike. Interpol nabbed Mamu on his way to secret meeting with terrorist commandants in Saudi. This is coming from the DSS, still a follow-up to the interrogation of Mamu. Says he's a potential threat, accuses him of terrorism financing. Court granted DSS the permission to detain Mamu for 60 more days. Here we have lady offers her kidney to save Ekweremadu's daughter. We saw it on the paper yesterday. She was, calling on Nigerians, goodwill Nigerians to help donate a kidney. And we say lady have done that. Well, we hope she'll be a good match. Good match to her at the end of the day. Bulletproof cars won't save you from uneducated children's wrath, the reps tell governors. And I totally agree with this, Rachel.
Yes.
We saw the issue of the Ifeanyi. Till date, there's still interrogation. He's a senator over there. And we saw that they were ready for him when he went to Anambra because there was a function that took him there. They were ready, and that's when he was attacked. And we recorded the number of police eight that lost their life, but he didn't lose his life. Why? Because he was in a bulletproof car. But for how long can we continue training in that part,
It's
Rachel?
just a matter of time, like everything is a ticking time bomb. There's a time the youth will get too angry that we will also go to the extreme end to get what we want and tell them that, okay, we are not afraid anymore and we're not going to be quiet. So yes, his bulletproof car won't save him.
Because it's really a sad when we have issues like this. I mean, I remember when I was talking about the local government autonomy, when they say the local government can be on their own, carry out whatever they wish, their finances and everything. And we saw lots of states have rejected that. Now you can see this function that Ifeanyi was going to was in the local government.
It was.
Definitely, you can see. So it's either you can't really tell the reason behind that, and we are not, we're not giving them kudos for that. That is really, no matter what the issue, you are not supposed to take anything into your hand. I mean, taking the lives of people, that is not guaranteed in any way. We kick against that totally. But I believe that as politicians and as leaders, we owe people the responsibility to do the right thing. If you have promised, just like we can see different manifestos, articles saying he's going to bring Nigeria out of darkness. If you have promised Nigerians that this is what we are going to do, try as much as possible, as is life within you, to do that, carry out. You know, lots of people have brought out examples, like, for example, the PDP candidate from the road to his village is not even, these are examples, because from the grassroots drive, these are the people that will actually, talk on your behalf when people are talking against you.
Like, we have a lot of senators living where we live, but you won't even believe they live there. Like, you can't even feel their impact where they live. And it's very sad. And of course, we cannot encourage such things to happen. But it will continue to happen until something is done. It's like you are on the other side, we are on the other side. You've made promises, and it's not even from your pocket you're going to do this thing. So what's stopping you from doing it? So there's going to be a reaction, like every now and then. We won't encourage it, but it doesn't mean that we have the power to stop it.
No, and that's what we're really kicking against that here on the show. And just like you said, if we don't change certain things, because we saw even the number one citizen, the president, was attacked. His convoy was attacked. So you can see reactions, just like you said, come from people. I just hope that we'll look into this. Let me quickly round up the first news. We have social media on fire as American call Festus Keyamo Mr. Mungu. You can read up that too. And police nab couple for selling their baby for 500,000. Well, regardless of what the issue is, this is not really the right way to go. Well, you can read up more of the stories on the First newspaper, and that's all on First News.
On the Nigerian Tribune, Mamu aiding abetting local international terror organization, DSS alleges. You can see more of that story on page 30. Article unveils 5-point national rescue agenda. It's funny that it's not just an agenda, it has to be rescue agenda. Like, okay, yes, Nigeria needs saving, but we don't have to make it that obvious.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see more of that story on page 29. And then the big story on Tribune is ASU strike. Commuters, motorists suffer as student ground Lagos Ibadan Expressway. You can see more of that story on page 2. Student says protests continue till strike called off. On a normal day, that road is crazy with hold up, great ox and all of that. Then imagine if people are out there and say, okay, you will not move. We are stopping you from moving. It's going to be terrible than other days, and something nobody should want to be.
Yeah, Richard, I'd like to add up, we can see that not only are the students out there protesting, but they're also causing a Greek lock because they have blocked the way. Now, my prayer and my desire is that hoodlums will not take advantage of this. We remember the NSAS. This was just goodwill Nigerians expressing bad governance, expressing police brutality, expressing lots of things that are not going right in the country. And we saw where it was as a result of that some hoodlums took advantage of that. Lots of people lost their life. We cannot forget the Lekki toll gates. This is a memory. By October, we'll be recording that because Nigerians always remember that day where blood was shed. People have even expressed that was when police opened the fire and the flag was stained. But you can see, I just believe and I just hope that this will not be the end, because the students have said they will be there until the strike is called off. Even though I know lots of things are coming out, the reps are calling on the National Assembly to add up to the educational, sector, things to be done, especially the tertiary institution. It's your right. Education is your right. When you go to other countries, this are education is free. But because we're looking at Nigeria, say, okay, you cannot go free, but you pay a token for that. And then even the token you pay to get that, you can't even get the education you pay for at the end of the day. And we keep saying education. Yeah.
Is that someone will come out and use what is your right for campaign. They will tell you, we will build more schools for you. We will reduce your school fees. We will settle ASU as a campaign agenda, and you would actually consider them. Like we've seen that where a governor will promise paying salary of that you've worked for. So you can see the country we're in. Like everybody, like the politicians are opportunities. It's quite unfortunate that we keep falling for their tribe. They promise us what is ours and we always just agree.
True.
Amid internal crisis, Ayu goes to Europe for 2 weeks. You can see more of that story on page 8. 1 killed, property destroyed over chieftaincy to sell in Ogun community. More of that story on page 26. Muslim ticket. Dogara Babachir meet Christian leaders from 19 northern states. Fight for justice continues, ex-speaker says. You can read more of that story on page 8. And there's a picture story there, I think, showing the tankers, the gridlock and all of that. Northern governors, traditional ruler back state police to support constitution amendment in page 11. I believe that our constitution needs not just amendment, but like a total transformation. NNPC seals gas pipeline project agreement with Morocco's hydrocarbon office. This is from the ECOWAS. You can read more of that on page 6. 600 million Africans at risk of severe drought. AFDP GCA report. You can see more of that report on page 7. Troops kills core of bandits, rescue 10 hostages in Kaduna. This is a story of hope, and we pray that more of this will be heard. So you can read more of that story on page 27, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at the Nigerian News Direct. Heritage Bank appoint George Taylor as the acting managing director. And we have Lasimre reveals how Lagos can be transformed into the smart city hub in Africa. African Development Bank names Abiodun Zep champion role model in Nigeria. The big story on the Nigerian News Direct, we have Senate reject 12.43 trillion naira budget deficit, 6 trillion naira tax and import duties waivers. The writer following the story says direct custom to conduct downward review of proposed waiver by 50% and tax the FRS to investigate the tax credit abuse by companies. All of that can be found on page 4 of the Nigerian News Direct. We have here Hair Insurance, Hair Life Assurance commence the Bankrisras partners with the UBA. Energy transition, Nigeria to benefit as U.S. pledges $200 million for clean energy initiative. And we have Nigeria needs $100 billion per annum for infrastructure financing deficit, coming from Atiku. And bandit attack scores kill 10 hostages rescued in Kaduna. And we can see the picture story there, 2 of which, if you want to know more about that, you can get Nigerian News Direct and read any of the stories that is of interest to you. But before we move further, Rachel, I would like us to take a time out right at this moment where we can open the phone lines for our callers to call us. And also you can drop your comment on our Facebook and also our YouTube page. And when we're right back from the break, we'll read it real time. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is the Dailies on Echo Television African. We've been looking at various stories on the paper, the 19 days that have been given to the DSS to continue the interrogation on Mamu, and also the barricade that the ASU students have, possibly the students, sorry, have caused as a result of the ASU strike. I mean, there are lots of, back and forth, the PDP crisis, the APC, and also the Muslim ticket. These are some of the issues that have been making rounds on our Nigerian newspaper. So we'll please call on you to call us and let us hear what your views are, what your takes are about this, because our numbers are displayed on your screen. A lot is going on, and we know it is a political era, so lots of things are about to happen. So just call us and let us hear what you feel about all of the stories. Richard is still here with me. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's move further to Daily Trust newspaper.
The Daily Trust, ASU strike, commuters stranded as student block Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Error to resume flight operation month end as Omza invests 21.4 billion naira. DSS accuses Mamu of financing terrorists as court extends his detention. The big story: insecurity. Northern governors mourn at back state police.
All right, we have a caller. Hello, James from Bida. Good morning. Hello, James. Are you there? Hello, James. Okay, we lost that caller. Please, James, you can call us back again. We really love to hear what your contributions are. Let's go on, Rachel.
All right, still on the big story. To harvest 2,000 megawatts of solar power, says ASU strike hits not more. Call for truth. Buhari blames militants for drop in oil revenue. More of that story on page 6. Bandits free F's councillor, give him bike to raise 8 million for them. Terrorism. Appeal court reserves judgment in Kanu's trial. You can see more of that on page 22. And then Atiku pledges 7 trillion naira economic stimulus fund in first 100 days in office. That is a big promise, and we look forward if he becomes the president. Let's see in 100 days what he can do. To hold support to alien staying own coins, vows to reduce borrowing. You can see more of that story on page 26, and that's all the news on Daily Trust.
Yeah, while we were reading the Daily Trust, the story that actually got my attention was Buhari blaming militants for the drop in the oil revenue. We always look for someone to blame for our misfortune. We have another call. Hello, Ben from Lagos. Good morning. Hello, Ben. If you can hear me, go on, please. Okay, I think I have to cut that call, and I hope you call us back again, Ben. We really love to hear what you have to say about any of the stories that is of interest to you. Richard, I was saying, we hate taking responsibilities for anything happening. We've been talking about canvassing for capacity, capability, transparency, accountability, and also looking at your track record. Of course, there was a time when the militants were causing havoc here, left, right, and center. But then we know that, let's look at the past administrations, looking at what they did to actually look into that. We had Yaradua when he looked into this issue and said, what can I do? Okay. Hello, Ben. Good morning. Thank you for calling back.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
How is everything over there?
Fine, thank you, Ben. Please go with your contribution.
I just want to talk about Muslim tickets.
Okay. Please stop listening to your TV sets.
Muslim ticket will not work in this country. We are the Christian, we will make sure that it doesn't work. I'm a Yoruba man. Tinubu is a Yoruba man. It will not work. We will vote against it. We will fight against it. We will make sure that Tinubu did not enter, because it's a big disgrace. It's a big disgrace to our faith. And any Christian that votes for me is a bastard. And any Christian that votes for me is a bastard. Yes. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Ben, for that beautiful contribution. Please, to our callers, whenever you call us, turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can actually have a very good communication. And we're looking at the issue where we keep blaming people. I mean, Yaradua, good luck, that administration. I'm not looking at the party, but I'm looking at the administration. Yes. They look into the issue. What can we do about this militant? Lots of our military lost their life as a result of this. Exactly. And then they brought in what it was called the amnesty. Yes. Scholarship was given, and to a great deal were able to reduce the number of issues about that. Okay, hello James, thank you for calling us back.
Yeah, yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, James. Please go on.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, James. Go on.
Yes, please, I want to know what the federal government is doing about. Okay. The people Mamo has, listed among those sponsoring this banditry. The other day he mentioned some names, which of course we read in our social media.
Yes, he did.
What is the federal government doing about it?
Okay, I guess that's a question that we'll have to throw to the federal government to know what they're doing about that. Please, anytime you call us, turn down the volume of your TV set, because I can actually hear myself and you can actually hear yourself on the TV set too. I know these are part of the things we're saying. What is the government doing about that? Because people need answers. Yes, on the papers we saw where he said an ex-governor, an ex-security agency is part of those. And here we're saying that he was on his way traveling to go meet with terrorists in Saudi to issue.
Now, the issue I have with this is that there are a lot of times these people are caught and they keep saying there's this on the list, there's a governor here, there's a senator here. But for once, we just never...
Okay, we have another call. Hello, Simon from Ghana. Good morning.
Hello? Yes. Good morning.
Morning, Simon. Good
morning.
The manager and the Equa Authority as a whole. We that are living overseas, our heart is bleeding on what the leaders are doing in Nigeria. Nigerians are intelligent, skillful people. We living in overseas, we are all doing well. Why can't the leaders in Nigeria do Nigeria so that Nigeria will be better for the people living in Nigeria, and some of us living in diaspora can come back home and contribute our own quota? Right now, Buhari is blaming the militants for oil drop. But he is causing that oil drop. Because as a president of Nigeria, he is supposed to relinquish the Minister for Petroleum to the Niger Delta people. State Minister for Petroleum, Niger Delta people. I personally work in an oil company before I left Nigeria. There was no problem of theft or any militant or anything. What the oil company is doing, they contact the villagers as a security for all the pipelines. People who own that village money so that there will be security guiding the pipeline. And this problem will be over. The federal government don't want to spend money on where the oil is coming from. You left the oil unguarded. You left all the pipeline, nobody's minding it. The contract on Tompolo was revoked by Buhari. If you revoke that contract, how do you? And he also relinquished that Minister for Petroleum is occupying. Give it to the Niger Delta people. They know their people, and everything will be okay. Let me tell you, since the death of Ken Saro-Wiwa, no one single oil has flown from Ogoni land. And Ogoni land, one oil where they can produce 5 million, 10 million barrels a day. So the people are not happy, and I want any administration that can uplift that. But by the time the Niger Delta people are occupying this position, they can talk to their people and things will be better. So I can go on and on and on, but let me stop here and give other people the chance. I thank the Export Television. God to strengthen you people. We are happy. We listen to you people every day from where we are staying in Ghana here and various parts of overseas. God bless you all.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very
that
much.
very great, wonderful contribution. I say, Richard, it's still in relation to what I was saying.
Yes.
We need to take responsibility and see. I think was it last year or so where we saw one of the very the great a great elder statesman from the south when he said that looking at the fact from that north, the southeast side where mostly all the Niger Delta area where we have the oil, and when the federal government said that even when they get the oil they're going to give them 5%, but they were agitating for 30% because you are getting this oil from our
us.
state. It's expected that what our children are not getting, the scholarship have stopped flowing in the way it used to, and even if you tend to look at it, their lands have been destroyed. They cannot even fish, they cannot even do anything. And so I think it's high time we stop blaming this militant and see what can we do to society. So I think that is the right step. Niger Delta officials that I know. Hello, we have a hello, can you hear me, please?
Boss Mustafa, secretary pension scheme. That is Aisha. For other
All right, thank you
very
so much for that contribution. So I hope that we'll look for a way forward, in all of these issues. Well, I think that's all on the Daily Trust, right? Let me move further to the sweet crook. I think still in relation to what we're talking about on oil, we can see gas leak from the MPDC facility rocks rivers communities. Issue of the leaking of gas left, right, and center. What I'm saying about polluting their water, their air, their land. I hope something will be done about the gas leak, and so that we can reserve something for the nation. We have MPA intervention compels the IOC to utilize the local Salvadori service. The big story talking about oil theft pushes Nigeria's production to 32-year low. The output falls below 1 million barrels per day. Because I think as of last week, we're just producing about 900 and something barrel per day, where we're supposed to be getting more than 1 million, and we cannot meet up with OPEC quota as a result of that. Down here, we can see fuel scarcity looms as Ipman suspend loading of products in rivers. Initially, they did it in other states. Now we can see some rivers. I hope something will be done about that. Picture story here, we can see some oil workers working, and we have the weekly basket price. It's an update, so you can do well to grab the Sweet Crook report and read any of the update that is of interest to you.
And the leadership. UK police declined comments on Ekweremedu's health status. You can read more of that story on page 7. Court grants DSS request to detain Mamu for 60 days. You can see more of that on page 6. Banks halt cash disbursement of Forex for PTA, BTA. Amid PDP crisis, IU leaves for Europe. Hands over to Damagum. You can see more of that story on page 7. US commits $200 million to climate change fight in Nigeria. More of that story on page 26. Respite as diesel price drops by 11%. More of that story on page 25. Anti-labor laws. Aviation union issue 14-day ultimatum to the federal government. More of that story on page 25. And the big story is on insecurity. Northern governors, traditional rulers back creation of state police. Remember that story on page 4. And the writers for that story pledged to support amendment of constitution to achieve goal. Agree to harvest 2,000 watts of solar energy to spur regions' economic activities. Have done well in insecurity infrastructure, PMP declared. And there's a picture story where we can see the CEO of the Zenith Bank and the current president of the International Monetary Conference. And that's all the news on leadership.
Yeah, while you're leading the leadership, there's a small story we didn't read that was talking about numbers. The number of passport issued by immigration have been, raised by 38%. Now you can see lots of people are leaving the shores of Nigeria, Richard. It's quite sad.
It
Apart
is.
from our doctors leaving, even other people are just looking for a greener pasture. But one thing we keep saying, nowhere like home. But then what is being done to make sure that the welfare of even the citizens in the country are being taken care of? I mean, is it not better you serve in your fatherland than to go be a slave in another person's land?
And I just wanted to say the sad part is that when you look at Nigeria, we're still a developing country. And what that means is that there are more opportunities. There are untapped ideas, untapped resources, untapped innovations. It means that there's a better chance of you starting something new and becoming better. But our system doesn't support that. So it's better you find that the option of going somewhere and being more of a third-class citizen and just working to make ends meet becomes a better option than staying where you can be the boss, than staying where you can become something great, but the system is not supporting. So it's very unfortunate to see that happening.
Of course, Richard. Well, we hope we'll look into that. Well, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. We have Makinde Aboriomi clash over Atiku and rule over the Southwest meeting. You can read up that on page 28. North Governor's Monarch call for state police. My plan for Nigerians by Atiku at the LCCI forum. You can read his plan on page 28. And the army are saying we are tracking terror sponsors. I hope after tracking them we'll have the names and justice will take its place at the end of the day. We're having issue Oyo government okay 778 million naira to actually, you can read more of what they actually okay that money on page 27. And we have Takumamu, it's a terror financing, DSS tells the court. You can read more of that interrogation on page 4. And we have Falter Wave gets CBN switching processing permit. And you can read more of that too on page 4. The big story on the Nation newspaper, Buhari said we have done well with available resources. Ohanaeze restates commitment to Nigeria and Igbo leaders seek equity. Downside, we can still see a lady offer to donate kidney to Ekweremadu's daughter. And the picture story here is the president at Imo with the governor by his side while he actually launches one or two things over there in Imo State. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On the New Telegraph, pension assets, investment in real estate drops by 2.1% to 221 billion naira. Federal government instruments go up 9.04 trillion naira. Federal government moves to ban kerosene lighting, oil, gas pollutants. You can see more of that story on page 5. Senate custom kicks against proposed tax waiver in 2023 budget. More of that story on page 8. Oil firms remit 2.6 trillion naira after public hearing on NAITI report. More of that story on page 31. Energy transition, Nigeria to benefit from $12 billion fund. More of that story on page 8. Ruto's inauguration celebration of democracy institution, Osibajo. You can see more of that story on page 8. And the big story, debt servicing, APC dressing Nigeria in borrowed robes, Atiku. You can see more of that story on page 8. Buhari, my administration has done well, even if commands Imo government for project delivery, Southeast governors missing at event, Ohanaeze Adibo committed to Nigerian project. COAS dismisses fear of violence, promises security. You can read more of that story on page 3 and 7. Court reserves judgment in Kanu's appeal on terrorism charge. More of that story on page 4. In the bottom of the paper, you can see insecurity. Northern governors, royal fathers endorse state police. Say ASU strike adversely affecting region. We need 5 trillion, not 1.1 trillion naira. ASU chief. You can read more of that story on page 3 and 5. Study links poor oral health to cognitive decline. You can read more of that data on page 8. And that's all the news on the New Telegraph.
Right, let's quickly look at the Daily Independent newspaper on insecurity. Northern governors, monarchs endorse state police. And we have NEITI recovers additional 2.6 trillion naira unpaid taxes from oil firms. And the big story, which is on 2023 budget, Senate rejects the 12.43 trillion naira deficit, 6 trillion naira tax waiver. Other stories still on Daily Independent. Atiku assures OPS of incentive, asks the APC to prepare to leave. Buhari says Ozodinma writing his own history. The writer say commissions Imo governors 3 signature projects. And we have 3 killed, houses, cars burned as Ogun community boils over Obanship tussle. And court give DSS go ahead to detain Mamu for more 60 days. NNPC to seal the gas pipeline deal with Morocco, Hydrocarbon Office and ECOWAS. And we can see bulletproof cars won't save governors from uneducated children. This is coming from reps. And also we have 5 injured, shops and houses destroyed in Jigawa gas explosion. This is really a sad one. You can read up that too on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper. And this is how far we can go the program, the Dailies. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all our callers, and thank you so much to those who always glue into listening to the Dailies. It's really a privilege, and thank you so much for making a day with us. Until we come your way again, to have a blessed day. Stay tuned for Nigeria Now by 10.